And I think it's very important what you said, going back to your roots and having that connection. Because even as we navigate the new landscape with more technology, I find that human conversations have diminished so much. Just being human, talking to each other on a human level is so critical. And I see the genuine shift. I saw more of a shift, but I actually see us shifting back to wanting that connection. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. On today's podcast, we have Lisa Van Slyke with us. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Lisa, can you just jump in and tell our audience a little bit about you and who you serve?
Oh my goodness. My name is Lisa. I am at the Lisa V. I serve anyone who is in that in between in life and business, where it's heavy and life happens and business happens and they're coming together and it can be overwhelming. So I serve those that are in a spiral or they're on the edge of a spiral and help them learn how to not allow that to take over their life so that they can continue to move forward, designing the life that they want and the business that they want without allowing all of the outside stuff to consume them.
Wow. Okay. So that's happening right now in the news, in the media, in everywhere we look. The outside is essentially just surrounding us, and everyone is trying to figure out, like, how do we just stay focused on the present and our business? Can you give us some real insight?
You know, my favorite saying is you can only control what you can control. You can't control how you're being fed information, but you can control if you're going to receive it or how you're going to interpret that information. You can't control what the office is, what's happening in their lives and how they're doing their role in your business, or even, I know a lot of people that listen are also corporate. You can't control how they're going to act or do what their role is, but you can control how you respond to that. You can control how you allow it to impact you, and you can control how you let it or how you absorb it and turn it into, you have the decision to say, I can make this become something that's stressful and have a bad impact on me, or not so much disassociating, but saying, I don't have to let that bother me the way I'm allowing it to bother me. So you can only control what you can control. And that most of the time is you.
And let me dive in here. So I know I'm starting out hard today, but there's so many questions I have for you. So I know when you say, you can't control the narrative, but are there some things that you could possibly implement to make that process a little bit easier?
Yes. Listen, we're not going to change the political landscape. We're not going to do that. However, there's some things that we can do on a smaller level to help our impact on a political landscape. For example, I'm not going to change anybody in Congress. I'm not going to change the way people believe and their belief system on how they decide to lead this country. But what I can do is say my resources can be used in ways to help people lessen the impact of that decision. There are organizations out there that I might be able to give to. And one of my other favorite things is I can be a modern day Robin Hood or Robin Hood-esque. I can invest in those companies that I might not agree with and take that money that I make and invest in the companies and the organizations that I do believe in, that are having the impact that I want to see in this world. So even though I can't change a broader landscape, I can definitely work on a smaller scale to have my impact be more noticed by and felt by me. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I know when you're running a business, we're constantly watching for what's going on to kind of be able to shift and make better decisions, especially when you have employees, especially when you are thinking about like the long-term effects of your business. are there some, prior to what's going on now, are there some other things that you think um, tools that you think entrepreneurs should use in order to be able to help them in the long run? So if they're like projecting your business.
There are a lot of tools out there. AI is huge right now, and I don't see that going away. I see that being an impact. And for me, I do use AI. I love to write and I love to talk or speak. So I use AI to be it's like a database for me for the most part to help me. It's a journal. I track my exercise, journal through there. There are programs that help me track all of my macros and my micros, but I also use it to help. Here's my idea. I word vomit into the system and then I allow it to give me feedback. And I also use it as a tool. I give it a job. I don't just put things into it. So you're my analyst or you're my ghostwriter or you're my copywriter. And this is what I need help with. I need help with automation. I need help with streamlining things. I don't want to take away from my employees, but I want to give my employees more tools to help their job be more efficient, because we're all on this road to try to find that work-life balance.
Right.
And the more tools that we have, the more balance that we can give ourselves and our employees.
Right, right. And for someone who has a systems and AI company, I can say that we have definitely saw the shift where before, when we used to speak about AI and automation, we'd have some sort of pushback where people weren't as open to even looking at it because it was kind of like not just a buzzword, but they were afraid of it. But I think now people are seeing, hey, listen, this could really help me, right? When you are meeting, I know that you must be integrating some sort of system, but what systems primarily do you utilize or find the most helpful outside of maybe, let's say, ChatGPT?
I love Claude because Claude has a completely different function than ChatGPT, and they actually partner very well together. You mentioned, I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned where, AI is not a buzzword anymore. 6 months ago, it might have been a buzzword, but we've been using AI for a really long time in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I think a lot of people look at AI as there's this robot, right? I Am Legend or I Legend. What was that movie where like all these robots decided to take over and they were AI and all of that? That's not what we're doing here. That's not what AI is. There are some things like the delivery, the cars that can drive themselves and deliver your groceries to you or whatever. But we've been using automation for a really long time. I just think now it's becoming a lot more popular and people are realizing how much more effective it can be. So there's all of this popping up with helping you. Oh my goodness, I use Riverside if I'm going to do any video editing. It creates my transcripts. It pulls out any sort of little clips for me to help me have those reels for my YouTube or whatnot. So there's just a lot of them out there. And I'm actually still diving into a lot of them myself. So I don't have a whole lot of AI in my back pocket, but I do like to use some of them to help me generate pictures or with the, particularly with writing, anything that I do, I always, to caveat, make sure that I go in and edit it because I can tell when it's written by AI and I might not listen to your ad or, read your ad if it's too AI heavy, but it's a great tool to have. And then there are the video editings that I do like to do and the transcribing something like this podcast that you're doing right now. I'm sure, you might load it into a video editor and it's going to spit out a transcript for you, which is very helpful in, ad copy or even posting on social media and whatnot as well. So there's a lot of great tools out there.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. There are phenomenal tools out there. And what I've started to train my mind to do too is to essentially look at everybody's AI copy or AI generated content and kind of get to the meat of what they're actually trying to say. Yeah. Yes, it's written by AI, but they're literally, they have a message. They're trying to say something. So I'm trying to get what they're trying to say because yes, this tool is making it easier. And I don't want it to become where we totally get off of social media per se, because I still feel like we need that kind of connection or be able to see what's going on in the world, but not be discouraged that so much content is produced by AI, because essentially everybody's looking for help to do their work,
Right.
right? So what is some advice that you've been giving your clients as it relates to maybe that, you know?
That's an interesting question. The biggest thing is there's room for everybody. And just because you're seeing a lot of saturation doesn't mean that there's still not room for you. You
Right.
have a message, you have a purpose, and we're going to find that. And it doesn't matter if somebody is making $100 bajillion every year and you're only, making 10,000 right now. There's still space for you, and don't allow yourself to be discouraged
Mm-hmm.
and stop what it is that you're here to do because of the actual, the oversaturation.
And do you find that a lot of your clients are feeling overwhelmed because of the saturation?
I don't have a lot of business clients. More so, I have a lot. Well, I do have business clients, but I focus on helping people in the thick of whatever it is that they're going through. So for me, I can say yes to that, because if you disassociate and you doom scroll and you're constantly
Mhm.
looking at all of these things with this lifestyle over here, oh, why don't I have that? I wish I had that. And you're constantly seeing all these highlight reels, and then
Mhm.
you're combining that with all of this doomsday stuff that we keep seeing, and the hyper sensationalized news feeds and news stories and all these things that are happening. It can become very overwhelming, and it can really discourage you from not even starting your business or continuing with your business. It can discourage you from just getting out of bed
Right.
or showing up for your job and your family in the way that you should, or you feel you should, and the way that you're here for that purpose. And so it can be overwhelming for them. So I do see it from both sides.
Hmm. And what do you recommend for that?
I have a system that I use. You hear a lot of, you need to breathe, and there's breathing techniques to stabilize yourself, and that's really, really important. You cannot focus and move forward if you're in a spiral. So
Right.
learning how to stabilize your body and your mind, because they're connected, is so very important. Breathing techniques, there's several out there. You can find one that's best for you. Are you hangry? Do you need to eat something? Because I'm the kind of person that I have people tell me, I think you need to go eat something. And I'm like, whoa, you know what? I think you're right.
Mhm.
I think you're
Mhm.
right. So I have like my little checklist of what is it that my body might be going through right now, and stepping away, taking a 5-minute walk, going and breathing in some fresh air, instead of the recycled air in your office or your home,
Mhm.
that's something that you can do as well. But stabilizing yourself so that you can regain that focus is really, really important.
Mhm. Mhm. I have a question. What I've started to, for me, just sitting at my desk, take off my shoes and just put them on the floor. And I've found that it has sort of grounded me in some ways. Can you explain that?
I can't, other than I like to be barefoot myself. So I'm barefoot as often as I can be. If I go into the office, I like to walk around without my shoes on. And I know it sounds gross because people walk through there with their shoes and whatnot, but there's just a back to nature. We're so sensationalized with this modern world that we've disconnected from our roots and our ancestor and the way that we used to do things as humans. So to
Mhm.
having your feet bare, which is how we were always supposed to be, allows your foot to do the proper movement that it's supposed to do. I learned something really interesting, as a matter of fact. When you crunch your toes, the way that your foot moves with the arch rising up is a whole bone structure thing, and it's good for you. So you're allowing your toes to have space, and you might be crunching them and doing the footwork that you need to do to help. Feet are important. They take us everywhere, right? So you're allowing yourself to do the work that you need to do with your feet, and that connection to going back to your roots and back to just being basic human. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but going back to basics with
Right.
how you're moving your body or what you're doing with your body. I think that's why you have that connection there.
Oh, wow. And I think it's very important what you said, going back to your roots and having that connection, because even as we navigate the new landscape with more technology, I find that human conversations have diminished so much. Just being human, talking to each other on a human level is so critical. And I see the genuine shift. I saw more of a shift, but I actually see us shifting back to wanting that connection.
Yes.
What?
It's definitely there. I remember before the big C, when the world shut down and we were forced into our homes and whatnot, I remember the connection was there online. I was part of a book where women came together and we wrote our stories about how the internet was helping our healing journey because there was connection on a global level. So all these groups were popping up on Facebook. You could go and be in a group for, domestic violence or building your business or divorce or whatever was out. There's groups for that. So there was this huge connection on Facebook. It was major. And then we were forced into our homes and we had the small micro society of our family and maybe some few friends that we could get together with and whatnot, that allowed us to fix the family, some of us, not all of us, to fix the family dynamic. But then the world opened up again. Right. And we were just itching at that point to have that connection, to be connected. And yes, there's so much on social media, but there's so many things that are rising, groups that are coming back together and networking meetings and just fun things to do anymore that's coming back together. And I see the itch for us to be in company of other people. And that's basic for us. We're humans and we have to have that community and that cohesiveness. It's part of the, Maslow's hierarchy principles and all of the basic sociology aspects of community is how we as an individual survive. So it's definitely on the rise. And I love seeing that. I love seeing it come to the, that it's starting to peak, but I also love that we can connect with anybody around the world by plugging into a computer and listening to an audio that somebody recorded and put out there, or we're watching these videos that people created and there's live things that we can see as well. So it's really, really good times to be in right now as far as looking for that community.
Yeah, I agree. And how did you end up getting into the field that you're in now and doing what you're doing?
I fell into it completely on accident. I was one of those people. I had some of those start your own business from a box types of businesses way back, probably 2015, 2014. And that put me on the internet because there was home parties that you were going to do from the internet. People were going to invite their friends from around the country and you were going to host this party on Facebook, really is where it all started. And one day I was online and saw just this advertisement for be a part of this book. And I said, you know what? I love to write. Let me see what this is all about. And that kind of trickled it from there. I was a part of that book. And then I had my own podcast with a friend for a while. Then I had my own podcast and I've just kind of been dabbling in a bunch of different things, but all of it came back to empowering women to find their power and to step into their true power. So that's kind of how I started.
Awesome. And in that journey, did you have any kind of mentors or was there anybody that kind of helped you flush out the idea, or did you just literally just jump in and be like, I'm going to try this and then kind of figure it out as you went along?
So my human design is a manifesting generator. So for me, I'm all over the place, and it kind of aligns with any of that neurospicy stuff I have going on as well. I'm kind of all over the place, and I just have all these ideas, and they just come to me, and I create this whole thing, and then I move on to the next one, and then I move on to the next one. I have had some really good friends who have been mentors and just that sounding board for me. Honestly, I haven't stepped into paying a lot of money for a coach, but I have done some small coaching programs along the way as well. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's always a good, but here's the thing. It doesn't even matter who you are getting mentored by, right? As long as you have someone that's been there or somewhere similar that can kind of guide you. I find that that's better than not having anyone in your corner to help you, because entrepreneurship cannot just be lonely, but um, if you don't know, you just don't know.
Exactly.
Right, right. And what are, if you had to go back, right, to give your younger self some advice, what would that advice be? And what tool would you give yourself?
I've always been grateful for everything that has happened in my life, because I wouldn't be where I am today and I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for those experiences.
Mhm.
With that being said, I can also say that there was a lot of things that I probably could have done without to learn the lessons that I needed to learn. And so for my younger self, it would be brave. You have the power. Don't lose that. Follow your intuition, be brave.
Yeah.
And the tool that I would have, I was around before social media was even a thing.
Mhm.
And the tool that I would have is know the basics of marketing, because
Right.
that applies to no matter what it is that you're trying to market and how you're trying to market that. The basics don't ever go away.
Hmm. I'm so glad you said that, but it's so true. Marketing is in every part of everything that we do. And as an entrepreneur, there are going to be parts of your business that you do not like, right? But marketing, if you know how to market, you'll be able to grow that business exponentially.
There would be one other thing I would add to that: in learn how to sell, because it's not just about your product or your service. You sell yourself every day
Mhm.
to everything, everybody. The person that you're standing on the other side of the counter from when you're ordering your coffee, you're selling yourself to them. You're selling yourself to your family, your spouse, your friends, whatever the case may be. Life is sales, and sales might be a very broad category, but we're constantly trying to impress people. So selling is huge, and that's where you're getting the money, the revenue from your businesses, no matter what it is that you provide, no matter what product or service. So learn sales, and
Mhm.
then, the marketing basics.
I want to dive into that and say that what I have noticed is that this younger generation, they really don't really understand sales. They don't understand how to sell themselves. And I think that may because they were in a time when they went through that sea, right? So coming out of that, there, from my perspective and what I've seen, is that they don't have that go get it in terms of face to face, or just going inside of a store and just talking to people. What advice would you give younger women that are thinking about going into business for themselves, right?
And that's interesting that you brought that up, because I look at the younger generations as something that I can incorporate into my life. They have an effort attitude that none of us ever had.
No,
I mean,
sure do.
they silent quit. If you don't like them, they don't care. They know who their people are and they find them. And I think that is very important in business. You need to know who your avatar is. You need to know who your people are, because if you're all over the place, you're no place, right? So I think there's some things that we can learn from some of these younger generations. They quit a job that they don't like because like, there's no way. But I know people who've been at the same company for 25 years
I don't like it.
and they still complain for 25 years. Like, what are you doing? So I think there's a lot that can be learned from some of these younger generations. They have technology in hand, like they were born with it. I think they came out of the womb with a phone or some sort of piece of technology, right? So they know how to do things that us old timers are still
Mhm.
hesitant about. Look at the demographics on who was anti-AI and who wasn't anti-AI.
Mhm.
The people who were not anti-AI are out there killing it. And you
Mhm.
still have people complaining because they couldn't see the forest through the trees. So I think
Right.
there's a lot that can be learned from some of these younger generations.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to that point too, I think it's a give and take, because they are so into technology that they don't have people
Yeah.
skills, and uh, I feel like technology is going to, in the next maybe 6 to 8 months, really shift. And yes, the ones that know technology are going to know technology, but I do feel like there a lot of people, there's going to be a movement towards interacting with people. And I think that that generation may not understand that enough.
And, every older generation never understood the younger generation.
Ah,
But we can remember what it was like to not be understood by the older generations, and
very
we
true.
can change that, and we can help the younger generations because they have something beautiful to bring to this world, and they're going to be the change that we need,
Mm-hmm.
just as we were the change for the older generations, right? So it's the cyclical process, and we can take a stand and help them become more people focused and more customer service focused, maybe less anxiety and less overwhelm,
Right.
and really help them figure out how to navigate, because you're right, interaction is never going to go away. Even the Jetsons still had to deal with people, right?
Right.
We still have to have interaction to have families.
Right.
I doubt we're going to have lab created babies. So, and there's still even a connection there. So the
Right.
connection is never going to go away. And I think we can say, instead of being fear driven or just
Right.
not understanding them, we can do a lot more to help bring them along.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I love that you said fear driven, because a lot of people are driven by fear. What are some of your top tips in order to eliminate that fear?
You have to understand yourself. For me, I've started over more times than I can count, and I've walked out of jobs that were very high paying that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I didn't have a backup plan. You have to know yourself, and you have to know how your body responds to things so that you can then stop it. You can do a 5-minute intervention so that you're not spiraling all over the place. So my
Ooh.
biggest tip would be really learn about yourself. And it's not learn who you are. It's not so much like, what do I want to do in life? It's, when this situation happens, what do I do?
Right.
Do I disassociate? Do I go and eat too much? Do I over exercise? What is it that you do? And figure out how to regulate that. Really, that emotional regulation it's key in being
Right.
able to function. So,
And what is that 5-minute regulate? What does that look like?
my system is, you're going to stabilize, identify, and act. So the biggest thing is that stabilization. We talked about that a little bit earlier. You have to get your focus back. You have to stop yourself from going into this rabbit hole. A perfect example, I was talking with some women the other day, and one lady brought up that she was in her laundry room and she couldn't find clean leggings, and she started to spiral. And next thing you know, like, her whole entire scenario had her homeless, sleeping in a cardboard box on the side of the street. And that was just what her head told her. That's not what reality was going to tell her. So part of what she needed to do was walk away from the laundry room, breathe. Are you hungry? It only takes 60 seconds to do a good deep breathing exercise. Your body, the physiological reactions for that, just get that oxygen, get that blood flowing, focus on something other than the problem. And that right there is the first step to moving towards figuring out why you're actually having that spiral. I promise you it wasn't because of the leggings. There's something deeper there. And what is that? But you can't always focus on that. You can't always just drop everything and call your therapist or go to the gym. Entrepreneurs have a little bit more flexibility, but the reality is you still need to be where you need to be for your business. So getting that moment to figure out what it is and saying, I recognize this. Now I'm going to put it away. And now I'm going to do what I need to do. So it's simple. There are more things involved with that, but that for me is key.
It's understanding where you are and trying to figure out how to regulate that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And the next step is, after you regulate it, do you go back and look for those leggings, or do you
I mean, it could be as simple as that, right? Can you just Febreze the leggings and go to work? Like, where do you work? Is there some other pair of pants that you can wear? And,
Is it that
it
serious?
might be your favorite thing, but what is something else that you can do instead?
Mhm.
How much time do you have? Because sometimes you're overwhelmed and it's like,
Right.
I need to have these now, but you still have 3 hours. Well, that's enough time to do a load of laundry. So really, what is it? And
Right.
having that focus allows you to then figure out the next move. What is it that I can do? And go from there to find those solutions, because you cannot move forward when you're stuck in that spiral. And it's really hard to come up with a solution when your mind is all over the place. So it
Mhm.
helps bring back that focus. And
I,
as somebody with ADD, that
Mhm.
helps me a lot. So it helps me concentrate on the things that I need to concentrate on. I know
Mhm.
when I'm in a really disassociative episode with ADD and not being able to focus, and it allows me, I like to walk. I like to just, even if it's pacing around my apartment for a few minutes, it just helps separate me from whatever is giving me that grief. And do I need to go back to it, or can I go somewhere else? Or did I come up with 5 solutions while I was not near the problem? So that's something that I like to do.
And because you have ADD, do you actually break it down into simpler tasks, or how do you look on that whole situation?
It depends on the scenario, but for example, going back to the leggings, I
Mhm.
would remove myself from the laundry room and figure out a solution of what can I do. And most of the time it's something very simple. Like in this case, maybe you can spray them with some fabric refreshener, and go on. But it's, for me, I am a systems and processes person. I like
Mhm.
to have steps. I like, not so much to check the block to make me
Right.
feel accomplished, but what do I do? And then what do I do next? And then what do I do next?
Mhm.
So I have time blocks, and I have the things that are going to be done in that time block, and I have the steps that I'm going to take. And that's where automation comes in. And that's where AI can help me, because
Yeah.
I need those systems and processes. So for me, it is breaking it down into smaller things. If I look at my living room and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming, pick up the trash,
Mhm.
pick up the blankets.
Mhm.
Do you have dirty dishes? Are there socks on the floor? Start with this one tiny thing and go from there. And you can do that in business as well.
Right.
So,
Right. And I think that was one of the best things that ever happened to me is when I learned about systems. It totally changed how I looked at things in general, you know, because I had the tendency to look at stuff, like at large scale. But then when you have a system or it's systematic, you're like, well, this didn't have to go that way, because if I had this system in place, then it would have done this, this, and this. And that kind of started my journey into even getting into AI. It was literally just finding out about systems and how impactful it's been. What are some daily systems that you have that you think anybody listening could implement that would really help them?
I'm a calendar fanatic. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist.
Oh,
So that is one system that I have in place with the reminders. And it can be something as simple as do your laundry today.
mhm,
It can be as simple as send 10 emails, make 10 outreaches, cold calls, whatever the case may be. I love a calendar and the reminders for that. Put in your water breaks, put in those things that you need to keep you in a more regulatory pattern than just, oh my gosh, it's 5 o'clock and I haven't had any water today. Just add those things. I love a pen and paper and making my to-do lists on there. I find that sometimes technology can be too overwhelming where I'm like, okay, where did I put this or where did I put that? How many times do I need to scroll through 1,000 line spreadsheet or whatever? I do love those, and I love a good Airtable, and that
mhm,
can help me house a lot of things. And Notion is another thing that I love because I can organize it the way that my brain works for me. So I do like those types of systems, and I
mhm,
go to those quite regularly to see, okay, today this post is going to be about such and such. Where do I go to find that information? Or now I want to work on my next book chapter. Where do I go for that information? So I have a schedule of things that I know where I'm most alert and where I get most productive. And for me, that's in the morning. In the
mhm.
evening, I want to relax. I might do some basic things in the evening, but I know where I'm most productive as well. And that's when I schedule in emails, marketing, or whatever. And I don't try to do everything in one day.
Right.
I spread it across the board. Especially, I'm time limited right now. So I'm working on about 15 hours a week for my business. So that is something that's very vital, is that I know exactly what I'm going to do, what day, and auto scheduling any posts and bulk processing that is very helpful for me as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And how can our listeners find you?
I am at the Lisa V on all of my social media. My website is thelisav.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, because a lot of our listeners are from Spotify, Buzzsprout, all these other places. So sometimes they're not looking at it. And for our YouTubers, I will make sure to put all of her links down in the bottom so you can connect. Lisa, is there anything that you want to impart with our audience today?
You can do it. Just hang in there. I promise. It's a cyclical ride. Life is about ebbs and flows, and you might be in your ebb or you might be in your flow. But no matter what, you're awesome and you have something to bring to this world. So keep on bringing it.
I love it. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure.